Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Now, stand back for your own safety.
Steve, what's up?
Congrats on the win.
Thanks, Steve. Where Paulie at?
Here we go.
I'm checking out. I will respond to you, but I'm done for the week. I'm done.
Steve is my favorite part of the show. How's that?
I like that. Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Check for sound.
Pleasure to be on there talking with Paulie, man. He's a good dude.
I'm an idiot. I'll just shut up and let you talk. I was trying to help.
And shout out to Tupac.
3, 2, 1, and now.
This is Orange Nation.
Well, hello, Paulie and Steve.
With Stephen Fonte and Paulie Sibilia.
Check it out. Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to have you with us alongside Paulie Sibilia. I'm Stephen Fonte. It's a Wednesday edition of Orange Nation. We've got two guests lined up for it today. We are going to talk with Mike McAllister. I know we just had him on Monday, but given the news last night, we thought it would be worth bringing Mike back on today to talk about the head coaching search. He will join us in the second segment, so right around 12:20. And then Damon Amendolara, national host, Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio. He will join us at 1:30. We'll get the national perspective from Damon. We'll get the local perspective from Mike. Plus, we'll get the caller perspective from you at 315-437-7644. I spent quite a bit of time on the phone last night with various people, including Mike. And I thought Mike had a pretty solid perspective to share on this. He put out a post this morning and kind of laid out some of the different scenarios he think might be at play in this situation, Paulie. And I think it's worth having him on, getting his perspective. So we're going to do that in the next segment. How are you today?
I'm great.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been told it's the end of the world, but I'm okay.
You have your PT sweatshirt on?
Yeah,
you ready to do that afterwards?
Pants. I'm going to PT after. Got to stretch.
All right, so breaking news yesterday from Jeff Goodman. He's been all over this story, at least from the Bryan Hodgson side of things, right? And so he puts out a tweet. South Florida head coach Bryan Hodgson has turned down the Syracuse job, sources tell the Field of 68. It is likely that Hodgson will decide between Providence and staying with the Bulls, who have put together a lucrative financial package similar to what Josh Schertz received at St. Louis in an attempt to keep him in Tampa. So that was a tweet from Jeff Goodman. He followed that up with, now that Bryan Hodgson is out of the mix for the Syracuse opening, I would expect new AD Brian Blair to focus on Siena coach and former Cuse guard Jerry McNamara, who's taking the Saints to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2010. And then the final tweet that he sent out, Syracuse's resources clearly not where they need to be. If they want to compete for the top 5-6 spots in the ACC, they will need to improve their financial package for the next coach. Your thoughts when you see this series of tweets, Paulie?
Nothing surprising. Been saying for 2 years, maybe 3, that the NIL's got to get better.
Yeah.
It's not shocking. And everybody, I'm not doing a victory lap here, but when we said the NIL had to get better, it was still being said after we knew Red was going to be fired. It wasn't glazing red. It was, you need a package of NIL to get your coach.
Yeah.
And me seeing Twitter, I know Twitter isn't real life, and I pointed that out to people. But the reaction to have right now, if you are truly a Cuse fan, is not, well, I'm not helping. You know, you got to go to games, whether you like the coach or not. If you're a fan of the program, you got to go. You got to buy tickets. It's the only way you can compete now. You got to donate. You are the general manager of the Syracuse basketball and football teams. You are paying the players. The university can't do it.
I see in our chat several of our listeners bringing up whether or not Syracuse actually offered Bryan Hodgson, and I do think that is something that we need to discuss here, right? Too is the wording of how it was put out. You know, Jeff Goodman said he has turned down the Syracuse job. He did not say anything about an offer.
Yeah.
Mike Waters, in his reporting, said a source tells him, confirms that he is out of the running. Again, very deliberate phrasing there. There is a reason that this came out yesterday in the manner in which it did. Do we know all of the ins and outs of exactly what's going on? Of course we don't. And we're going to bring on Mike McAllister. We're going to speculate a little bit. And again, Mike put out a post today, and we'll get to that here in a second. But it seems like Jeff Goodman received word from said agent or his camp, which is his agent, telling him, hey, we're out of the mix. We're done. It's our decision, right? They want to make it sound like it's their decision. So that is one of the plausible scenarios here, is that Syracuse decided to move on, and Bryan Hodgson and his camp and his agent told Jeff Goodman, it's our decision, we're out. We're out. We're between Providence and South Florida. So again, if you read Mike McAllister's post today, his first plausible scenario is SU likes somebody better, and they decided to go in a different direction. The second option, SU bowed out at some point in a bidding war. It got to a point where they said, you know what, we've reached our limit. We're out. Or they got turned off by the fact that it turned into a bidding war. Maybe they thought, Bryan Hodgson was their guy, and Hodgson used Providence as leverage, or South Florida as leverage as well. And they were like, you know what, we're not going to play this game. Got to a point where they weren't going to play the game, and they walked away. That's possible. It's also possible that Bryan Hodgson, what his agent said about NIL isn't where it needs to be. The financial package, whatever that is, salary for the coach, NIL resources, whatever the case may be, the full picture isn't where it needs to be, and they chose to walk away. That's plausible as well.
Yeah. I tend to think it's all of the above. I think he was probably asking for a higher salary because the NIL was not where it needed to be, and it just turned into a bidding war. Pete Goodall in our YouTube chat says, it's all money, read a letter of apology and give him 47 more years. No, he got fired for losing this year. But the next coach needs more NIL. My God. Thank you.
The other thing that I think we at least need to discuss is it possible, and I think this is unlikely, but is it possible that Bryan Hodgson and his agent are using that as, a last-ditch effort to get Syracuse to up the ante and say, you know what, fine, we're going to walk away, and then see if Syracuse comes back. Now, I think that's highly unlikely, but, is it – here's the thing. With the AD search, did we learn anything from the AD search, right? The AD search, don't know. There was a lot of misinformation out there, right? And you have to, I guess, be able to decipher what's true and what's not true. And it's difficult because you've got people that you trust that are, that you think they're in the know, and maybe they're, like Jeff Goodman, for instance, he's clearly coming at this from the Bryan Hodgson side of it, right? That's the way that it feels, right? So it's been difficult through the AD search and through this search to decipher what's true, what's not. What's the misinformation? What's the angle? Everybody's got an angle, right? Everybody's trying to make their side look better. So, I think that we got to see how it all plays out, because until Bryan Hodgson signs a contract somewhere, until Syracuse University announces their new head coach, I think everything is kind of still at play here. I think it's less and less likely, obviously, that Bryan Hodgson is the next head coach here. But until it's a done deal on either side, you never know what could happen. I mean, Brian Blair kind of came out of left field, right?
Fella Furtis says, fans are the reason coaching was complete dog crap for 3 seasons. No, he got fired for that. You want the next coach to win? You got to help with NIL. Do you guys not realize that? Bring back the keys. Why would anybody give the school a dime now? Or bring back the curtain? Why would it? Because you want the next coach to succeed.
Yeah. I don't quite understand why everybody thinks that Bryan Hodgson is the only person who can coach basketball in America. I really don't understand that part of it. I understand if you're saying, it's got to be a fresh start and a reset. I understand fans are disappointed and upset. But, again, did we not learn anything from the AD search? Everybody said it had to be Nick Carparelli. Yeah. And then when Nick was out, it was like, oh, we're going to get Heather close down the program.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what happened. So until we see how this plays out and who they get, and just everybody needs to take a deep breath.
We don't know it's going to be Jerry McNamara either.
Right. And if it is, you know,
should
and you're an
embrace
SU
him.
fan, you know, as Mike Tirico said the other day, you embrace him, you give him the NIL resources, and off you go, and you hope that it works out. But yeah, this notion that he is the only option, and oh my God, shut down the program because they didn't get Bryan Hodgson. I don't quite understand that. Like, did he seem like a good fit? I get why people look at his credentials and said, you know what, he seemed like a good fit. Is he the only guy that could do the job? No, he's not.
You know.
Let's go to the phone lines. Let's have Nash at Syracuse kick us off on the show today. Nash, what's up?
Hey, how you guys doing today?
We're good. How about you?
Good. A couple things I wanted to talk about just with the situation, and I think I'd probably in the same boat. If it wasn't clear before, it's clear today. The number one priority of the AD better be to modernize Syracuse basketball and get the resources up. I think we now know the 40 years of history and tradition really doesn't mean anything if we don't have the money. Bankroll the team.
I
think this is kind of a slap in the face. Maybe they needed that to know where we're at nationally.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's no longer you're on the same level. You were never really on the same level as Duke, but you could steal a recruit from them every once in a while, or North Carolina or Kansas. But now you can't because they have a bigger payroll. And it's just a reality.
Yeah.
The gap is too far with where we're at. I think everybody be surprised if Jerry wasn't the coach. I think it'll be telling it if he's not announced by the end of the weekend. That might be kind of eyebrow raising. I would expect that he'd probably be announced by the end of the weekend.
If he's the coach and he's not announced by the end of the weekend, the only reason it would be is because he's upset Duke. So right. So.
Yeah, that's a bad sign if he's and I think Jerry's a really good coach. I think Jerry can win here if they give him the resources. Like, Hodgson was my preference, but I don't think we'll be disappointed with Jerry if they give him a chance. Jerry's a good coach, and he can lead. I think that's the biggest difference between him and Red. Jerry's got the personality to lead a team.
Yeah, I appreciate you checking in, Nash. I do think you got to have both. You got to have the coach and you got to have the resources. And if Jerry's got the resources, I'm with you. Yeah. I think he can win here.
And I also think Jerry can get the average fan to give money.
Yeah.
The people that hate Jerry McNamara all of a sudden are bonkers to me. I think if Jerry McNamara shows up to businesses, most people will be like, yeah, I'd like him to represent my business.
Yeah. And again, we don't know that it's going to be him.
Yes,
so
yes.
this goes back to it's not going to be Carparelli, so it's going to be Heather Lyke, and it wasn't. And I'm not saying it's going to be Jerry, not going to be Jerry. I think right now, if you're a betting man, you would say it's going to be Jerry. And I think that there's a strong possibility of that happening, but we don't know that for sure.
It's also funny, it's got really quiet on the hop front, and that kind of makes you wonder, was something percolating there?
Right. So I think we all need to just see how it plays out. Mark in New York City coming up next. Mark, what's up?
Hey, guys. Steve, to your point that this whole Brian Blair hire kind of came out of left field, I was listening to another radio show, and they had mentioned this name, this coaching candidate name that I haven't really heard here. Now that I'm reading up on it, I'm starting to connect the dots, and I think it's a super interesting name. The coach's name is Kyle Smith, and you might not have heard that name. Maybe you have, but he's actually the head coach of Stanford, which he's won 20 games the last 2 years. He played college basketball at Hamilton, which is just down the road from Syracuse. Prior to Stanford, he was the head coach at Washington State for 5 years. And who was the number 2 athletic director at Washington State at the time? Brian Blair, who helped hire Kyle Smith. There might be some interesting connections there. He has New York ties, played college basketball at Hamilton. He's got ties to the athletic director. By the way, I am Team Jerry. I want Jerry to be hired, but now that I'm kind of reading up on this coach, he's won 20 games the last 3 years at 2 different schools, took Washington State pretty deep into the tournament in 2023. He seems like an interesting candidate, and I think it's just another name. He's won at every school he's been at. By the way, also coached at Columbia in New York City and San Francisco on the West Coast, won 20 games at each of those schools. Just another interesting name just to throw into the fire here.
Yeah, and he certainly had a good year at Stanford this year. I appreciate the call, Mark, and you're right. I mean, I think you got to consider anything and everything right now, given the fact that you've got a new AD who doesn't have Syracuse ties. You don't know what he's going to do, right? You said money.
Stanford's
Pauly.
probably one of the richest colleges in the country when it comes to like being able to pay a coach. I don't know what their NIL is, but if they want to keep their coach, they can beat anybody.
Yeah. I would say, again, Syracuse basketball is a step up from Stanford basketball. I don't think there's any question about that.
But right now, maybe not. I think it's a lateral move at this moment. Okay. What have you been watching?
No, I know. I know what you're
hard.
saying about.
See, that's the one thing people can't. You're starting to do it. Let me be your psychologist.
Do you think? Hang on. Do you truly think, especially given what we know about Stanford, how important academics are there, how important everything else is there, all of the Olympic sports? Do you see Stanford jumping into the top 6 in the ACC?
If they want
from
to,
a basketball perspective, yeah. But again, given everything you know about Stanford,
yes.
I don't know that
right
they
now,
need to or want to.
I think at Stanford you can win, and this is where the expectations at Syracuse are leading the fan base. In order to get back to where they were, they're going to need to make a huge improvement in NIL. Huge.
For Syracuse, yes.
Yeah. That's why
understand.
I would stay at Stanford in California, enjoy the weather, less pressure. People are happy with a 10 seed,
but again, that's part of the problem, though, is like people don't really care. Do you want to be somewhere where?
Yeah, because I'm making money.
Okay. And you've got a job and you're not going to get fired. Okay. I guess that's one way to look at it, but I would say Syracuse is a step up from Stanford in terms of a basketball program.
Gabriel Zingoid says, so the salary is not the same as the NIL then? No, it's not. It's not even close. You can pay a coach out of your budget. You can only pay the players $20 million, and it's spread out amongst all of your sports. So it's not close to being the same. It's not rocket ship science.
I would love to see what that allocation is at Stanford, right? With the $20 million.
Yeah,
the commitment that we're talking about.
I bet you it's spread out. I bet you golfers get some.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is I think that is it easier to win moving forward? Will it be easier to win at Syracuse? That on that kind of level, getting to the tournament, Sweet 16s. I think Stanford is a pretty tough job from that aspect. But like you said, there's lower expectations, lower pressure. So I guess to each their own. But in any event, that's Mark brings up an interesting tie. The fact that he went to Hamilton and he has had success, right? And he knows Brian Blair, so we shall see. We shall see how this plays out.
Most wanted yelling at us. Money was not a factor. Okay.
Again, that could be true. That could very well be. You can't just dismiss that.
Yeah.
You can't. It could be, as they went through this process, they found something they didn't like.
Yeah,
it could be they found something better.
Yeah.
It could be they got turned off by you're going to use this as leverage with Providence, really? It could be a lot. It could be that he looked at it and Hodgson didn't like the resources.
It also could be that there is a coach who has donors backing him more. It could be as simple as the money might not be there right now, but another coach might be bringing in more.
Yes, that it could very well be. Could very well be. Let's sit tight here for 1 second. I think we might have one more phone call, and then we're going to bring on Mike McAllister coming up in the next segment. Let's get to Ryan in Boston. Ryan, what's going on?
Hey, Steve. Hey, Paulie. I guess the sequence of events in the last 24 hours leads me back to what's your guys' argument for why we shouldn't make a return to something like the Big East? I'm gonna start with that. What would you say is the number one factor?
Football.
Yeah.
Well, football, but why? But why? Right? Why would we invest in football?
Because you get football money. Football is your moneymaker, and you get TV deals. You wouldn't have any of that.
And Ryan, did you happen to hear our interview with Mike Tirico the other day?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
So hang on, just real quick. The reason I bring that up is that he talked about we're moving toward a day when there's going to be another cut, right? There's going to be another cut, whether it's 3 conferences or I think he used the 70 teams or whatever the case may be, and you want to make that cut, and without football, you're not going to make that cut. Go ahead.
No, totally agree with you. So, right from the money perspective, I guess my point here is, if Providence didn't make that move, right, if they don't have the same amount of resources because they don't have the same football TV contracts, but they're outbidding us within a coaching war, then where is the argument that we're actually getting more money? Because it's been enough years.
It might be NIL. It might be NIL, the NIL package, which comes from donors and fans and businesses.
Okay. To that point, if Providence can outcompete us with an NIL packages, then why are we going to make the Super Conference ahead of them? And they're not
because they don't have a football.
Because they don't have football, and Syracuse does, right? So I mean, do
you think that Syracuse football would make that Super Conference? They've had one outstanding season since they've joined the
So what are you
ACC.
getting at? Yeah, are you trying to get them to drop the football program?
No, I'm not going to drop the football program. I think that UConn is in the Big East, and they've had a moderately successful football program in the last couple of years here.
Their football program is nothing you'd want to be associated with.
It's nothing, but do you think that we have a better chance of national championship in the football program or basketball program?
Right now, that's a great question, Steve.
Yeah, it is a great question.
It seems so far down the road, coming off a 3-win football season, and
here's the thing to me is that it doesn't matter right now what the answer is, like present day 2026, because as Brian Blair said in that interview with Andrea Adelson the other day, at a place like Syracuse, you can't pick between football and basketball. You got to do both, and it just that's the reality here is that you're not going to punt on football because you do hope that you do make that cut, whatever that cut is. If it's 64 schools, if it's 3 mega conferences, when the ACC collapses, you want to have a seat when the musical chair stops. The music stops. You're not going to punt on football.
Right.
You got to find a way to be good in both, and it's difficult. And again, we mentioned that stat the other day. Last 5 years, right? There are 2 schools in the country that have won 70% of their regular season games in conference in football and 70% of their regular season games in conference in basketball. Those 2 schools are Alabama and Toledo. And it's not easy to do. And Syracuse, again, I mean, that's one of the things that they're pitching with Brian Blair is that he was able to accomplish that at Toledo. And you hope that he comes here and he's able to accomplish it at Syracuse.
Yes, people are saying that, just embrace basketball, be like UConn. UConn would do anything to get in the ACC right now. Anything.
Yeah, Syracuse isn't going back to the Big East unless they have to, right? Unless a day comes when, they don't make the cut and you got to make some tough decisions. But I don't see it happening where they would go back to being like an independent in football. Yeah. It's just I don't see that happening, and that's certainly not option A. Option A is be good in both. Find a way to be good in both.
Paulie, what advantage have we gained in ACC? We've been in the dumpster fire ever since. Yeah, it hasn't been great wins and losses wise, but financially, you're better off. And secondly, your potential to be relevant longer.
This goes back, and I know we got to get to Mike McAllister, and we will here.
Why are we talking about this today?
Well, because I think people look at the finances and say, how in the world did you get outbid for a guy who wants to go to Providence?
We don't know that he did.
No, I know, but I'm saying that's why you're talking about it today.
I would tend to lean on NIL packages were the problem.
Yeah. All right, I tell you what, we'll circle back on this topic. I don't want to keep Mike waiting because he's at work right now. He's very busy today. We'll take a time out. That was our opening drive, brought to you by Burdick BMW of Cicero. We'll get to Mike McAllister on the other side. Back after this on ESPN Radio.
Syracuse University is on the search for a new basketball head coach. Listen here for all the latest details.
If they yes. You guys got to realize you need to buy tickets at the games to pay the head coach. You need to go to the games and you need to donate to get the players. What lab? Gabe, are you okay today, buddy? When I'm talking to the chat, I'm saying you guys. Is that a problem for you? How would you like to how would you like me to refer to the chat? Gaper was colossally wrong, and now he's crying it like it's my fault when I've been telling him what was happening. You're all peasants. You're melting down, Gaper. It's not a good look. You're melting down. You're melting down, buddy. Keep going. Let's watch Gaper lose his mind. We'll see who they get, Dan, North New York, up on YouTube. We'll see who they get. It'll be interesting to find. You're melting down, buddy. Keep going. Keep just screaming into the ether. Dan Mullen's going to be the next coach. Good one. They probably did the breakdown of the same way BC and every other school in the ACC does it. Yeah, I'm making the same as McCoy. Let's go. Meltdown. Yeah, get personal. Attack me personally, Gaper. Let's go. Let's go. Keep it up. What you got, buddy? Let it all out. You need this today. You deserve it.
You're what?
I'm letting him vent. I'm letting him get it out. Get the poison out.
Except maybe my husband. He's so proud of me. It makes me cry.
I wouldn't hate Janine Holloway. I wouldn't hate any coach. I would hope everybody would embrace the next coach, but that's clearly not going to happen because you guys, there's a certain portion that's just absolutely insane. Any coach, David Mott, any coach that goes 15-17 is going to be yelled at to get fired at Syracuse. What got really weird on Twitter is like, if I was Bryan Hodgson too, I'd be like, look at this fan base. Like, people were like posting pictures of his wife and saying creepy things before he even was out of the running. What the hell is wrong with you guys? Artist of the day, Alice in Chains, my second favorite band.
Top 5.
Top 2.
Yeah.
My dream job, Alice in Chains. Being in Alice in Chains.
We always have Mike McAllister on Mondays. We brought him back for an encore performance today because there's a lot going on. And I spent some time on the phone with Mike last night. And,
what an honor.
We kind of walked, we kind of hashed this thing out together, and we bring on Mike McAllister.
Did it end like this? No, you say goodbay. No, you say goodbye.
Well, I trust Mike's opinion on things, and so I want to have him on to share his perspective because, a lot of people are, fans are emotional today, and I get it. But Mike, let's just start with it's kind of a loaded question here. It's a very open-ended question, I guess. But what do you think is going on here? And I know you put out a post today, kind of explaining some of the possible scenarios at play.
Yeah, I know that when that report came out from Jeff Goodman, kind of the prevailing thought from a lot of Syracuse fans was that it was Syracuse got outbid, that Hodgson turned down an offer, and I don't have any sourcing or information that he was provided a formal offer, first of all. But secondly, I think that there needs to be at least an open door to the possibility that it wasn't Hodgson saying no to Syracuse, but it could have been Syracuse saying no to Hodgson. Now, that can be for a variety of reasons. That could be because you go through an interview process, you talk to him or people in his camp or his agent or whatever, and there's some sort of personalities that don't align, there's some sort of vision that doesn't align, or the financial part of it could be, a part of it as well, whether it's the expectation for NIL or whatever the case is. All of those are possibilities. But there's also the possibility that Syracuse goes through this process. They're evaluating Hodgson. They're evaluating several other candidates, and they came to the conclusion that there was another candidate that they liked better, that they were going to move forward with, that they talked to that person, feel good that that person's going to accept whatever offer that they provide, and that they informed Hodgson's camp or agent or whoever it is that they were going in another direction. And then Hodgson's agent, of course, contacts members of the media to put out there that they rejected Syracuse in order to kind of get out in front of the eventual Syracuse announcing someone else as the head coach. So I think all of those should be kept as potential things that went on here until we have someone that is willing to speak on the record that we feel is giving the entire picture of what happened. And I'm not sure that ever will, simply because if you're Syracuse and whoever you end up hiring as your head coach, you're going to tell people was your number one choice, right? You're going to tell people that regardless of whether it is or not. And from Hodgson's side of things, they're going to tell people, no, this wasn't a job that I wanted and I was turned down for. I turned them down. That's just kind of how it works. So there's probably always going to be some spin going on here from both sides, and that's just kind of the reality that we're living in.
Right, and I was just going to say that you can't say we didn't want this guy, then hire another coach who's, I'm your second choice.
Yeah, I mean that's not going to happen. Even when we know that a coach is third, fourth, fifth choice, whoever it is, right? The school or organization, if it's a professional team, they never say that. They always tell you, hey, look, we had an exhausted process, and it became clear to us that this was the best fit at this time. They'll say something along those lines, and that's just kind of the reality that we're in.
All right, so how about from the Bryan Hodgson side of this, Mike? The timing seemed kind of odd. Is it, in your opinion, just to get out in front of it? Because their camp, his camp was aware that they're going to go in a different direction. So make sure that you say that you bowed out as opposed to the other way around before Syracuse hires somebody.
I mean, I think logically that's certainly a possibility. I don't know 100% for sure, and I don't want to, say something that makes it sound like I know for sure that that's what Hodgson is doing, because I don't. I'm sort of reading tea leaves and speculating a little bit here. But the timing, to your point, seems odd just because I think most of us expected that we'd know at some point this week, depending on how some seasons ended or didn't, that we'd know who the next head coach was going to be by the end of this week or perhaps after the weekend. And the fact that we're here now and right before the NCAA tournament games start being played by, some of those candidates, then all of a sudden this report comes out. The timing of it seems a little bit odd, especially since there were the comments about South Florida trying to give him some sort of lucrative extension, and then Providence still after him. So it still seems there's some posturing for leverage there to try to continue driving up the price for how much he's going to cost for wherever he ends up next year. And so it would seem odd that if you're trying to do some of that leveraging, you would be taking a Syracuse off the table because they would help your ability to continue leveraging things for a higher price. So from one realm of this or one branch of this is that the logic is there's some logic to the fact that he could have been told Syracuse is moving in another direction, tried to get out in front of it.
Yeah, you talk about the leverage, though. Is there a chance that Syracuse was priced out? They had a set price, and he passed it.
That's certainly a possibility. So back to the leveraging point, whenever you have a bidding war between people or schools or professional organizations, whatever it is, everyone's got a line where they're like, we're not going above this. And if you're Syracuse, whether you viewed Hodgson as your top choice or you viewed someone else as a top choice or a couple of 2 or 3 candidates relatively close to each other, if you've got Hodgson and the price keeps going up and up and up, at some point you're going to say, we're not willing to spend that, not necessarily because we can't, although that is a possibility, but maybe we're just not willing to because we think that getting, one of the other candidates that we talked to and we're interested in at maybe a couple million less per year is we feel like we're still getting a really good coach. We still think that the NIL is going to be there for that coach. And to us, it just is getting too pricey for, what we're willing to do. Every school has a budget. Every school has a line of how much they're willing to pay. And, it's one of the possibilities of this thing that the bidding war was taking place. Syracuse hit their line and just said, sorry, but we're not doing that.
For the sake of argument here, let's say that Bryan Hodgson stays put at South Florida. If that happens, what does that say to you, Mike, about college basketball in 2026? That two of the hottest names in the offseason, Josh Schertz and under this scenario, Bryan Hodgson would stay put at St. Louis and South Florida. Does it signal that there are only truly like a handful of really big jobs in the country, or do you think that would just be a coincidence if it happens like that?
It probably is a coincidence because you'd need to see it happen, I think, multiple times in order to start trying to find a trend there. But I do think in modern college athletics, you're in a world where Indiana can win the national championship in football. So you're also in a world where a school like a St. Louis or a Providence or a South Florida or whoever it is can spend a lot of money at a sport that they decide that they want to, especially if you have the backing from donors. And think about a school like Providence, for example, that's another school that's been in the rumor mill for Hodgson. They don't have to worry about football. So if they don't have to allocate money for football and they've got rich donors that want to see the basketball team be successful, they can spend more on a head coach or on NIL or whatever in order to try to make sure that happens. So the fact that you've got this money that's coming from donors and paying for players and helping shape your roster, that makes it so that a school that's maybe at a non-major program can retain players, can retain coaches, and make their program more than just a stepping stone for the Power Four conference programs.
I'm sure that you were on social media last night. I'm sure you saw all the same stuff that we saw that, if it's not going to be Bryan Hodgson, shut down the program. What would you say to the SU fan that is fearful that Syracuse isn't a quote-unquote serious program anymore, or that, the athletics department doesn't care about them? I mean, what would be your response to that?
Well, the first thing I want to do is I understand the emotional reaction. The emotional reaction is there because Syracuse basketball fans are extremely passionate. They grew up watching this team be one of the best programs in the country for 5+ decades, right? So there's a level of expectation because of the success that they've had, and then there's a level of passion that they've had for so many decades, and it's hard to get out of that. So I understand where the reaction comes from. I think at the end of the day, even those that are upset and mad and furious and saying they're going to cancel season tickets and they're never supporting this program again and all of those types of things, ultimately, at the end of the day, they all want the same thing that those saying, I would be really happy if Jerry McNamara became the coach. They all want the team to be successful. And even if you think it's less likely that Syracuse is successful if they hire someone other than Bryan Hodgson, there is still the possibility that if they hire Jerry McNamara, Mike Hopkins, Phil Martelli Jr., some of these others, Luke Murray, that have been, potentially discussed as candidates, if they hire one of those guys, there is the possibility that the donors are excited about whoever that is, that they give that person more in NIL than what they've had the last few years, and that Syracuse is able to get themselves back on track in terms of making the NCAA tournament again and then kind of going from there. So what I would say to those fans that are upset is, let's see how it plays out. Let's see who it is that is hired, and then pay attention to the offseason, because you'll know based on who they get in the transfer portal, whether they have stepped up their game from an NIL standpoint or not. That's what I think. And so if they're able to get some big splashes in the transfer portal, then you see how the first season goes. And if things start to go in a positive direction, I think everyone that's upset right now will come back and will be back to just talking smack to UConn fans and Georgetown fans and worrying about where they're going to be in the tournament.
You brought up the NIL, and people get mad when you talk NIL, but how do you up your NIL without knowing who the coach is, right? Is that a problem right now for Syracuse? Is maybe you got to be a little patient in year one?
I think, depending on who the coach is, I think patience in year one is probably warranted in most cases. That said, I don't think that that's going to happen from a lot of fans.
Right, yes, sure.
I think patience is worn thin, even if it is warranted. But at the same time, yes, it's hard when you don't know who the coach is to know what the exact NIL situation is, but you have to imagine that those that are conducting interviews are going to be making the decision on who the next head coach is are talking to their big donors to say, all right, here are some of the candidates that we like that we would consider hiring. What is your contribution going to be if we hire a Jerry McNamara? What's it going to be if you hire Phil Martelli Jr.? What's it going to be if we hire Luke Murray, Mike Hopkins, et cetera? And if they say, well, if it's Jerry, I'm willing to donate more than anyone else, and that's the consistent message that you get from most of your donors, I think that tells you, all right, we're going to be better from an NIL standpoint if we hire a Jerry McNamara. Just as an example, I'm not saying that's what's happening.
Well, no, yeah, I agree. We heard that if Hop was coming, it was going to be a $15 million NIL, and I said if that's true, there should be no other names available right now. He should be the next guy.
100%. Yeah, that's absolutely accurate. When I saw that rumor as well, and I said, if you've got $15 million a year just from that, and that doesn't include what you're going to give in revenue sharing and NIL from other means, then you would be dumb not to hire whoever that is. I could coach that team.
Yeah, right.
They wouldn't be as good as if, Mike Hopkins or Jerry McNamara is coaching him if I did, but, just as an example. So, I think you have to be in conversation, in communication with your donors in order to figure out where they're willing to open up the wallet to get your roster back to where it needs to be to get back to the tournament.
All right, Mike, great insight as always. I know you're busy today. We appreciate you squeezing us into your schedule. Thanks for coming on, and we'll stay in touch as this thing moves along.
Yeah, sounds good. And listen, I know that that emotions are high and patience is wearing thin, but I think it's going to end up being okay, and we'll see. Because if it is Jerry McNamara, if it ends up being him, I think the season opener next year is going to be a pretty electric atmosphere. It'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. But either way, stay patient, see how it plays out, and don't overreact until we see how things play out.
Okay. It's good advice, Mike.
I don't know how electric it'll be. Half the people I saw on social media said they're never coming to a game again.
Yes, I saw the same. Yeah.
A lot of people there.
All right, Mike McAllister joining us here on the program. Phone lines now open until 1:30 if you want to check in. 315-437-7644. Damon Amendolara will be joining us coming up at 1:30. Mad Dog Sports Radio. We are back after. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
I just wanted to say one more thing about this. Like, you still? You know how I said, not that I'm always right, Steve, but I am. I said I would take the field. How are you feeling about Jerry versus the field right now? You want to think about that during the commercial break, and we'll come back?
Yeah. I mean, I don't need to think about it, but yeah, we'll discuss that on the other side. Back after this on ESPN Radio.
Damon was not a host of this show, no. I'm not going to say who I think it's going to be because that just leads to you being wrong. If I had to take the reason why he wasn't here is he got too big for his britches. He might have been on SYR or HEN. He was around before this station even existed. Yeah, Steve does hate Jerry, guys. That is correct.
Can we not with that? Can we not?
Steve, I know you don't.
No, I know, but like
the chat knows you don't.
Can we not?
Jerry knows you don't.
Yeah.
No, we can. Grow up.
No, me grow up?
Yeah, grow up. Get a sack, as the kids would say. I've been on the Speedy Claxton bandwagon, David Mott, for a while. Get him and his point guard here. That'd be nice. Yeah, Steve, why'd you root for Vermont then? That's a great question, Art Curtis.
I'm never going to live that down. Should have just kept my mouth shut. Should have kept my mouth shut. Yeah, it keeps doing that. It got big, and then now it like scrolls up in the middle.
It got too big.
It got too big.
I have that problem every day.
We can. Yeah. Yeah, we could do that. That's fine.
I didn't say I couldn't fire Axe. I said I didn't fire Axe, LA Orange. Go back and read it. And if anybody that wants me to comment about my job or my friend on social media, I'm not doing it. So there you go. I had nothing to do with Brent Axe getting fired.
Philly, I would say my answer to that is I think so.
Yeah, he's going to double down on his rooting against GMAC in the tournament. Thank you, Big Poppy. You should be honored you get to hear me. I mean, there's literally an article on Syracuse.com explaining what happened. Are you watching the game with Coach K? Oh, my God. Steve would be smiling from ear to ear right now if he had to spend time with Coach K. I have control over a bunch of stations. I run 4 stations. Gaper, you don't know what my job is. Steve, you're fired.
He can fire me. Yeah.
You're fired.
Yeah, all right.
Just get it out, Gaper. You can get it out. Take it out on me. Steve, I'm allowing the chat to just beat up on me today. Make personal attacks. Do whatever you want. Get it out. You're angry. It's so weird how obsessed people have got about one name in the coaching circles. There's a lot of good coaches out there, guys. You just can't you can't fixate on I've got to be right and this has got to be the guy.
Yeah. I mean, I think there were a lot of reasons that Bryan Hodgson's name was linked to this job, and it didn't work out for whatever the reason may be. And now they move on. And maybe they moved on because they wanted to move on. Maybe they moved on because they had to move on. Either way, they're moving on.
Yeah, and you just try to embrace the next coach prior to whatever his record is. If he fails, then you can be angry again. But embrace the next coach. You shouldn't be pre-angry.
Well, I don't think that's an option right now, Paulie. It seems like a faction of the fan base is going to be angry either way right now.
But I don't get that. You wanted Red gone, he's gone. Now you gotta let the next guy cook. Let him cook. It may not work out, but you just I don't take that as part of being, and maybe I'm old. I don't take that as part of being a fan is like, oh, I didn't get my way. I didn't get my coach, so I hate this team. No, you should like whoever. If you like the team, like them. If you like Bryan Hodgson that much, go be a USF fan. Right? That's the easiest answer. Wherever he ends up, go be their fan because you're a bigger fan of him than you are of Syracuse.
All right, let's check in on the market here as we wrap up hour number one. We've got Mike from Lee Baldwin. Mike, how's the market doing today?
Not so great, guys. This isn't going to help lift any spirits, but the Dow's down about 413 points.
Oh, it's Bryan Hodgson's fault.
Yeah, exactly. I want to know how many people ever heard of him 3 weeks ago in Syracuse. It's going to be a blessing in disguise. Anyway, let's move on. The market's down today. We do have a couple nice diamonds, though. Retailers Macy's and Williams-Sonoma both reported earnings this morning. They're both up between 4% and 6%. Pleasantly surprises there in their earnings, so we'll take that. A lot of dogs out there, but we're going to go with the gold miners in general. Those stocks are down about 5% today after a big rally the last couple of years, but it's a tough day for the gold miners. Other than that, not a great day, but hopefully we can reverse it this afternoon.
All right, Mike, appreciate you coming on. Appreciate the sports take as well.
Yeah, that was a hot one.
No,
I love
it. I love it. Mike from Lee Baldwin and Company. All the diamonds, none of the dogs. Be sure to visit LeeBaldwin.com. I mean, it is a valid point, and I think the hardcore Cuse fans they've known Bryan Hodgson's name for a while. The casual fan, I don't know. Maybe it's been 4 to 6 weeks, and since they first heard about him.
Cotter Dinklage says 3 to 8 seeds in this year's tournament. Average NIL is $8 million. I don't know why we think cash is everything. Okay, if that's true, I don't know what it is. The coach got fired because he's not in the tournament.
Right.
$8 million does not put you on the level of competing for the ACC championship. It just doesn't unless you punch up big time.
Do I go back to the phone lines?
Yeah, why not? It's Jim in Syracuse.
Jim, what's going on?
Hey, guys, look at I haven't been able to hear a lot of the conversation, but I just want to say that I have really strong feelings about what the right thing is, and I'll just try and lay it out. I think there's I don't think McNamara should be punished because Autry failed. I think McNamara, literally, if we got him, and it's as good as it looks like, he's shown that he can be successful. He bleeds orange. He's part of the community. He would stay here forever. Some of these guys could come in here and they could have, they could be 25-5 the third season and they'd be gone the next year. They need stability. They need a guy that loves this community. I just don't see how they could pass on him right now. There's so many positives. There's a couple of negatives, but I think they're making a huge, mammoth mistake if they pass on McNamara right now. I can't see it. So I just want to say I am completely in his corner, and if he's as good a coach as he looks so far, he'll be here forever. So I'm not sure what you guys think about it. I haven't been out here, but, to just bring in one of these guys that has no real ties to Syracuse, I really think would be a big, big mistake.
I don't know if that's true. I've been saying this since, you just got to get the right coach.
Yeah.
We all were wondering who the hell is this guy when they hired Fran Brown. They got a 10-win season. They had a bad year. Fran Brown's slowly going to start moving into the hot seat area if he doesn't turn it around. But it was a great hire year one. NIL went up. It's got to be sustainable. And you just got to root for whoever it is, I think. But that's just the way I handle my fandom.
And we appreciate you checking in, Jim. And I think it comes down to it's got to be the right guy. And it more so than the right guy, it's got to be the right guy matched up with the right resources. And I think that's been obviously a conversation we've had for the last month / it feels like years plural. That's been the conversation, right? They have to have the resources that match with the coach. And I would love to see Jerry come here, given the proper resources, and see what he could do. I also understand the folks that want, a total reset and somebody from the outside. I think we will know, you would think, in the next few days to a week what's going to happen here.
Taking Jerry or the field, Steve? That was the big question leading into the segment.
Yeah, so I think the odds-on favorite is Jerry right now, right? Obviously.
I'm leaning field.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I know you are. I
don't know why. I'm going to be wrong. I'm wrong sometimes. Not
sometimes.
But I'm taking the field.
Yeah. I do think it's going to be Jerry. I do. But we saw with literally a couple weeks ago with the AD search that some of what is out there is not always true. There is some misinformation out there. And with an AD that's coming in brand new from a different university and no ties to Syracuse and working in conjunction with John Wildhack and Mike Haney, it's hard to predict what's going to happen. But, yeah, if you ask me to predict right now, I think it's going to be Jerry.
Okay. I'm going field, and if Speedy Claxton isn't hired, I will burn down all of the city.
Yeah.
I also threw a crazy wild idea out there. What if they got a package deal, Steve? It'll never happen.
I don't think that'll happen. You brought that up before the show. I don't think that's going to happen.
Jerry and Hop, that's my ideal situation.
Jerry's the head coach. Hop is the lead assistant.
Yep.
I can't see that happening.
All right. I can't either, but that would be an ideal situation if you were going to stay in house. You just completely blow everybody's mind. Yeah.
Lean into it.
Yes.
All right, we're up against the top of the hour. Let's hit a break here. More of your phone calls coming up next. Phone lines open for the next half hour. So if you want to chime in, now's the time to do so. Back after this on ESPN Radio. Yeah, so just to clarify here, LA Orange, I was never a Hodgson guy. My job is to tell you what I think is going to happen, right? So I thought Hodgson was going to get the job. And obviously Jerry winning the MAC conference title, things going the way they did with Hodgson, obviously things have changed. But I thought they were going with Hodgson.
I am going to stick with the field.
As we've been saying you keep saying outside pressure, LA Orange. If you don't think that there's been an internal struggle up on the Hill, I don't know what to tell you. And they're just like everybody's having this internal struggle on this show about which direction they're going to go, in the family, out the family. It's a thing. It's been a thing. So, what happened to that outside pressure? I still think that it exists. The decision makers have clearly decided to go in a different direction.
I've been a field guy the whole time, not to brag.
But it still might be Jerry.
I know.
Okay.
I know. Part of the field is out.
You said that those four. You said Schertz, Hodgson, Hopper, Jerry, or the field.
Yeah.
And I said I thought it was going to come from those four. And so two of the guys have been eliminated. Two of them are still alive. I don't know. I tend to think they're going with Jerry now.
What about Bruce Pearl? I saw a very reputable Twitter account.
Yeah.
Push for him. I am feeling myself. Bruce Pearl with Bob Huggins as his assistant. My dream get. Where's Gaper? Come on, Gaper. You got more in you. You got to let it out today. Let's just get it all out. I'm here for you. Oh, LA Orange, you would love a Pearl and Huggy. Come on, let it out. Get after me, buddy. Get it all out. Get the poison out. You need it. You're super angry. Okay, so you know how I was saying you can't be mean on Twitter? What that Twitter post I sent you guys about Quadir Copeland was that was the perfect way to be a dick without being a dick. It was a funny way of saying, Quadir, pass the ball, bro.
That was funny.
Build-A-Bear is my nickname for you? Come on, you can do better than that. Get it out. What am I deflecting about? Yes, or Johanna, I tend to agree with you. You should put. Get it out, Gaper. No, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. Today's your day. Be personal. Thank you, Cuse Ball. I don't want you guys to be nicer to me. I actually get a strange arousal out of it. Thank you. I said it. Fold the program? Okay. Oh, yeah, there you go, Gaper. I have ED and can't control myself. Oh, segment 4. You ready for the... Hey, Paul or someone, can one of you guys run it in here, the bracket in?
Oh.
Can one of you run the bracket in quick?
Let me go get it while you're welcoming us back?
Yeah. Welcome back to Orange Nation. I have upped my bracket game immensely, Steve. You see how pretty this one is? You can read it. It's not my chicken scratch.
Is there more than one copy?
Yes, and it's already been posted to Twitter. The 2026 Pauly bracket is available now. Best TV theme song. We'll do a quick segment here, Steve. I'll hit you with the 1 seeds. You can be mad at the committee all you want. I am.
You don't care.
I am the committee. Tim asked me if I did it using Chat GPT or AI, and I said no. I did it myself. I did all the seedings myself. So if you don't like it, the Jeffersons is number 1 overall, 1 seed. Mr. Rogers, the number 2 number 1 overall seed. The Brady Bunch is 3 in the 1 seeds, and Twilight Zone is the number 4 1 seed, and the rest of it is available on QSportsTalk.com's Twitter.
All right, so anytime there's a selection show, Selection Sunday, they always interview the committee chair and they ask some questions. They always ask about the teams that just got left out.
Your Enthusiasm.
Okay.
Did not
missed out?
Just missed the cut. I got beef on that immediately from the peanut gallery. Curb Your Enthusiasm. Another one that got a high seed was Miami Vice in the 8-9 game. It got the 8 seed. People thought they should have probably been a little better.
Yeah.
Big Bang Theory, also a double-digit seed.
So how's this going to work now? So we're going to play the...
I'm going to make this so much more better. I am embracing a kinder, gentler Pauly this year. I don't think we need to antagonize the listeners this year because it's been 5 years of this. We're going to, tomorrow, not even really going to talk about it today. Tomorrow, there'll be four different...
Well, tomorrow we have no show.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Tomorrow, there'll be 4 different votes out. All of the 116 games will be done tomorrow. We'll shoot them out on Twitter.
Okay.
The next day will be the 215s, and then so on. So there'll be 4 a day leading into Monday, and then Monday we'll go back, recap. We'll do some. We won't drag this out as long because there's a lot of breaking news this year.
Okay. At some point, though, we're going to play a little sample on the air as we get down to Sweet 16 and beyond.
Before that, we'll do 8-9 games. They're going to be fun.
Okay.
There's some really good 8-9 games.
Okay.
So you're Miami Vice versus Seinfeld, Sopranos versus the Flintstones, Different Strokes versus Good Times, Big Bang Theory versus Living Color. Those are good 8-9 games.
Different Strokes against Good Times. Was that did you try to have storylines going?
Yes, that was. I did. Also, my sleeper pick, Greatest American Hero I was going to ask you for a sleeper.
The 5-12 matchup?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I like this idea. This will be fun. All right,
you got a favorite TV theme song, Steve? And I can tell you what.
Did Growing Pains make the cut?
It did not.
No? Okay.
Full House did.
Full House.
Welcome Back, Kotter. Chips. Monkey.
Family Ties make the cut? I'm going back to like my childhood with sitcoms.
That one, yeah, no, they didn't have a good NIL this year. It didn't make the cut.
Magnum PI?
No, Rockford Files did. Man, I actually took the top 100 songs according to Billboard and went out of that.
Yeah. How about
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is in there?
That's got to be there.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right. What seed? WKRP, what did that get?
WKRP is an 11 seed.
11 seed?
Yeah, they're taking on Moonlighting.
Oh, I'm going WKRP there.
All right.
I like the 11 seed to make
we've
a run.
had too much fun. You can't have fun in this era. Someone in the chat said Hill Street Blues is a banger. They did make it. I just wish I could find it. There's Sesame Street's a 2 seed. The hell's Hill Street Blues? I had Paul do this with me. It's on Hill Street Blues is looks like an 11. I had Paul doing this.
How long did this take you?
A good hour last night.
An hour, that's it? Okay.
Green Acres is on there. People are Law and Order is actually was the last team in.
Is that right?
Yes, I can promise you, Law and Order was the last team in.
All right, let's
people on an NIT bracket. Taxi, someone is at. All right, I'm glad you guys are having fun, and I'm gonna just keep embracing this. No, Taxi did make it as I think they were. That was a.
Where can people find the entire bracket?
It's on Q Sports Talk on Twitter.
There you go.
Welcome Back, Kotter is in also. Yes. So there you go. Family Guy did not make it. Airwolf did not make it. Airwolf. But Paul was like, what are these shows? All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll get to the loaded.
We're getting a bunch of phone calls. That was us driving into our second hour, brought to you by Burdick BMW of Cicero. More of your phone calls next on ESPN Radio.
King of Queens did not make it, but Drew Carey Show is a 16 seed. Golden Girls are a 2 seed, I think. No LA Law. Full House did make it. Full House has a tough matchup. Welcome Back, Kotter in the first round. No play. Cheers is a 5 seed. I think they could make a run too. Cheers has Give Me a Break in the first. MASH is in, Dallas is not.
Can you remember to bring this up on Orange Nation Overtime? So we should talk about this on the WSR Plus show too.
MASH is a 3 seed. MASH is a 2 seed. Married with Children did not make it. Last four out. Jeffersons are a 1 seed, Kevin. Knight Rider did not make it, YouTube. Game of Thrones not in. Cheers is in. Three's Company is in. Dukes of Hazzard in. Step by Step is not, but that is a good one. Sanford and Son is a 1 seed, I think. Or a 2 seed. Happy Days is a 1 seed. All in the Family is in. Happy Days is in. A-Team, last 4. A-Team's one of my... Chips is in. Dallas not in, guy. People are obsessing about Airwolf. Yeah, this. I went with the Facts of Life not in. I went with the 100 best according to Billboard, and I went from there. Gilligan not in. The White Shadow not in. Sopranos, Miami Vice, great matchup.
We may just have to take this up to 130, do Damon, and then end at 152
Hee-haw.
again. I mean, that's what we did the other
Hee-haw,
day.
not in. Unsolved Mysteries, not in. I don't give a shit today. I don't give a shit. The Nanny, not in. One Day at a Time is in. Addams Family, in. Chico and the Man, not in. Circus of Values. Love Boat, in. Airwolf was in a one-bid league. Lost in the tournament. Sopranos will win it. That's a hot take. That's an 8-9 game. They're going to have to upset the Flintstones and Mr. Rogers just to make the Sweet 16.
I can see that happening.
Fat Albert. No. Fantasy Island. Deplane. No, but if you'd like to make a joke about me yelling Deplane, you can. Maud did not make it. One Night in Paris, Jordan, not make it. MASH made it. 8 is enough. No. Munsters, not in. Mad TV, not in. Brady Bunch, 1 seed. Always Sunny, no. Eastbound and Down, no. Blurred Out, Channel 57, no volume on that one. You ever look at that, Steve? The old Playboy channel when it was blurred out? Maybe catch a boob?
Did Psych make the list? Monk?
No.
From USA?
Saved by the Bell did not make it.
Saved by the Bell didn't make it. Wow.
Rockford Files in. Leave It to Beaver out. Coach out. Dennis the Menace out.
Wow.
Donnie and Marie out. KRP in. Frazier in. X-Files in. I'm losing my voice. Emergency, no. Chips, yes. Heaven Beside You, Allison Cheat. Steve, I'm losing my voice. Moonlighting in. Scooby-Doo in. People are asking about all the TV shows theme songs, and I'm yelling in or out to them.
Scooby-Doo didn't make it.
Scooby-Doo's in.
Oh, Scooby-Doo's in. Okay.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo's a high seed, I think. Scooby-Doo is, they're facing the Odd Couple. Futurama not in.
I do like this idea.
Night Court out.
We've got a lot to accomplish here, Paulie. We'll get back to the bracket.
Donnie and Marie out. Munsters out. Can we just do this the rest of the day? I just yell in or out to TV shows. The committee has spoken.
Let's go to our phone lines. The phone lines are jam-packed right now. We'll begin with Jay in Baldwinsville.
Jay, ask me a TV show before you get to your take.
What do I got to ask you, Paulie? I will. What do you need? My favorite TV show?
TV show
What?
theme song.
TV Cheers.
Cheers in. They're in. Okay, go ahead.
Yep. Hey, so real quick, and Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing all right,
for the sake of for the sake of poking the bear here, the question, like when you were talking, and I'm catching up here, you were mentioning like clearly it's not enough NIL money. We need more NIL money. And for the average fan, the guy that doesn't have deep pockets and everything else, like I keep asking myself, how much do we need? Give me a concrete figure, because unless I'm mistaken, all this cloak and dagger about what these kids are making surrounding NIL, unless there's a website that I don't know about or a reporting agency that we need to go to come up with that $7-8 million roster figure with a breakdown of players, how do we know that Kentucky's roster was around 20 million? How do we know all this?
It's all a guessing game.
Exactly. And there's the root of the problem, Paulie. It's like, for the fan out here, I'm certainly not going to just throw money at something without knowing what's the nut. How much do you need? How much of a gap is there? Why? How much are these players making? How much are we short? And exactly, we don't know. So we're just blindly guessing here. And I think that's the biggest problem here. Is like, well, we didn't get Hodgson. Why not? Well, obviously we don't have enough money. We need more money. Well, where are we at? What what's our checking account? How much did we pay these guys, and how much more do we need?
The story is they were around 8 this year, which is enough to get you to the tournament. They didn't, and Red got fired.
What? But Paulie, the first thing you said is the story is we don't know how much it is.
I tend to believe it if multiple people are saying it.
Well, I believe in unicorns, but you can call me an idiot at the same time.
Oh, I will. You're an idiot.
Yeah, right, sure. But you've got to, Paulie, you've got to deal when you're dealing with millions of dollars. You've got to deal with concrete numbers. You can't guess this. And I was going to use a four-letter word. You can't guess this blank. You got to know.
I think when they're speaking to the donors, they're pretty honest with them. If you're asking somebody for, 6 figures, 7 figures, I'm sure they're pretty honest with them.
Okay, but I just think, that's your, and again, you're closer to it than I am. But I guess what I'm saying is that also, let me ask you something real quick, and we might be going down a rabbit hole here. Are these are contracts these kids are signing? Who's giving these kids? I assume they're giving them 1099s. For tax reporting purposes and all this kind of stuff. So I mean, if they're doing all that, there's got to be some sort of governing body or a portal that can keep track of this thing, or else, to be honest with you, all these mid-major schools and all these schools like Syracuse, apparently, that don't have the big boosters, and to be honest with you, that's a whole other conversation because I don't know why, because I figure half of our alumni, a lot of them come out of the Long Island, New York City area, and a lot of them, they do have deep pockets, so that's a whole other story for another time, but there's got to be they got to clean this up here where we're not guessing anymore. We're dealing with concrete numbers.
All right, Jay.
Yeah.
Appreciate you checking in. I understand the frustration. When he says how much more, it's, it is just more right now, right? You can't have enough is kind of how it feels like, unfortunately, in college athletics these days. That,
right.
Everybody, Houston and Calvin Sampson, they're number 2 seed. They're talking about we need more. Everybody's saying they need more, and there's no cap, and that's part of the issue right now is that the price tag just keeps going up and up and up.
And Syracuse does have money, and I don't know that you can get to where people want Syracuse to. It's an experiment. I'm going to sit back and watch. Can Syracuse get back to where it was in an era of money?
Yeah. Mike Tirico said, unequivocally yes.
I don't. He knows more than I do.
No, I know. I'm saying I don't know either, and I'm curious too. And I'm curious what we hear from Brian Blair whenever we hear from him, because that is the challenge, right? Is to, as he said to Andrea Adelson, it's not a question of football or basketball. You have to do both. How do you go about accomplishing that? Easier said than done, right? So yeah, I'm right there with you, Paulie. That. And I said this yesterday, and I got crushed for it on social media, but until I see otherwise, I'm going to be skeptical, right? And I think you're the same way. And until you see otherwise, you're going to have some doubts, and that's where I am as well. Let's get Scooter in Jamesville up next. Scooter, what's going on?
Paulie, Adams family.
In.
All right. Way to go.
Yes,
of course, right?
Yeah, I think they're a 5 seed.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
They're up against the Partridge family.
Oh my God!
It's a family. It's a family battle.
The original theme song, or the one that they redid?
No, not the Hammer version. The original.
Okay. All right. Paulie, you mentioned something a long time ago in sustainability when it comes to the NIL. Now, Rapoli was the sugar daddy at St. John's, become the George Steinbrenner horse racing because he'll spend $24 million on horses. But if he doesn't get success, he gets rid of them for, $20,000. I saw a horse he bought for $600,000. You got rid of it for $20,000. He's not going to support St. John's if they're in the 5th place. He's going to support them if they're 1 or 2. And I'm wondering sustainability. If you're the 8th and 9th every year in a conference, are people still going to be willing to want to dole out money when you're basically the 8 and 9? The ACC's got 2 playing games. SMU and NC State. SMU supposedly has all this deep pockets. Are they willing to sustain it if SMU's the 9th best team in the league? And that's an overall thing, not just a Syracuse thing. Now, we thought it was great when We actually outbid North Carolina for George. I don't know how much North Carolina offered George, but that was a big deal, right? We outdid North Carolina.
Syracuse has to do a double catch up, though. It's kind of like this year they caught up where most teams were the year before, and now this year with the new head coach, you hope you can get to the equal playing field. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, but are they going to be, if they finish 8th in the league, how long but people are still going to, like you said, sustainability? And I'm not just talking Syracuse, but the big, deep pockets. I mean, what are you paying for? What is it worth to be the 8th best team in the league? Is it worth $15 million?
It's a great question. Yeah. It's a great. Well, you would hope that if it's $15 million, you're not going to be 8th. But right. I understand what you're saying, Scooter.
I just was wondering. It's not just Syracuse. Like Paul, you've mentioned it a couple times. I want to see this 5 years down the road. Yeah. If these people are willing to keep paying millions of dollars, like I said, Rapoli's not going to support St. John's if they're in 5th. Trust me.
Right, and
he'll pull his money.
Yeah, and I appreciate checking in, Scooter. And this goes back to part of what we were talking about yesterday. Jeff Goodman said on his show, and then we repeated it and got ripped to shreds yesterday, Paulie, about it's easier to get to the tournament with Providence than it is to Syracuse. And I guess the point being, like, people see these 50-second clips and there's no context to it, right? But again, you look deeper at this conversation, and you can cherry pick whatever stat you want. And people looked at it this year and said, well, the ACC got 8 teams in, the Big East got 3. Well, yes, it was a down year for the Big East, number one. Number two, as Scooter just pointed out, 2 of those ACC teams are in Dayton. So, you had 6 safely in, 2 on the outside. And you look at the previous 4 years. So Syracuse has missed the tournament 5 straight years. The previous 4 years, 19 Big East teams made the NCAA tournament. 19 ACC teams made the NCAA tournament. And we know that the Big East has a lot less teams than the ACC does. And again, to Scooter's point, St. John's and UConn, like Providence or another team in the Big East, they're not going to surpass UConn and St. John's anytime soon. Nobody in the ACC is going to surpass Duke anytime soon. Yeah. But that third spot in the Big East, like, what's easier to do, for Providence to leap ahead of like DePaul and Creighton, or for Syracuse to leap ahead of Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia, Miami, NC State, Louisville, and that's the point. And Scooter kind of touched on it there, is that. Is 8th place in the ACC, is that going to be okay for you? Are they going to continue to give if Syracuse is 6th to 8th in the ACC? In order to get into that top 4, it's going to take a lot more money, right? Whereas, a team in the Big East like a Providence has that opportunity to be the 3rd best team in the conference year in and year out with the right head coach, the right resources, and you're getting to the tournament on a regular basis. In the ACC, there's 18 teams, right? And so, yes, Syracuse upped its NIL game, but they only got into the middle of the pack and they missed the tournament. Are they going to be able to, is it feasible for them to get into that, that top 4 tier of the ACC? If so, like that's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a huge jump.
The other thing, people were calling us idiots yesterday because we said that about the Big East is easier.
Well, again, Jeff Goodman said that, and we just said, okay, we understand his point, and people lost their minds. But again, you see these clips, and then it's
somebody posted a really funny meme of a person's head being a toilet seat and called us S-heads.
I didn't see that.
That one was really funny. I laughed. I laughed for a good couple minutes of that one.
Let's get one more phone call before we get to our next guest. Stefan in Utica up next. Stefan, what's going on?
Well, hello, Paulie and Steve.
How are you today, Stefan?
Doing good. TV theme song for me would be Full House.
Full House is in. They're facing Welcome Back Cotter.
Nice.
What do you got?
Now, whoever the next Syracuse head basketball coach is, I hope he's able to stay 20 to 30 years like Coach Beheim stayed 47 years. We need longevity in the coach, and hopefully he's willing to stay 20 to 30 years.
I'll take a play-in game right now. Let's go.
Yeah. Jim Beheim was an exception to the rule, right? There's a reason you don't normally see a guy stay that long in one place.
He's also the reason everybody's so angry today, because he set the bar.
Yeah. Listen, is stability important? is it attractive? Yes, I think people want stability in their program. Is it far down the list though right now, Paulie? It is. They got to. I don't care if it's a guy who's here for 1 year. I mean, obviously I'm exaggerating here, but you want somebody to get this thing back on track and get him back in the right direction. So, whether or not the next head coach is here for 30 years or 3, you hope that it's a successful tenure for that next head coach. Get them back on track, and hopefully you can build from there. All right, we're going to take a timeout. When we return, we're going to get to our next guest, Damon Amendolara from Mad Dog Sports Talk Radio. He will join us on the other side. We got Mike McAllister and the local perspective earlier in the show. We're going to get Damon on and the national perspective coming up next on ESPN Radio.
How have you never heard Welcome Back Cotter, San Diego Q's? How old are you? Like, that song was played on the radio. Three's Company. I don't think it made it. First 4 out. They're like the 7th team I've said. Three's Company is in. Facing one day at a time. They're in. The Orange Nation intro, not in. I don't drink milk apples. I did not. The Masters.
One shining moment.
Yeah, that's not a theme song. Masters is. Oh, right. That's a good one.
What was that?
Round Ball will Rock. I didn't even think of that. Fresh Prince is in. No. Looks like they're a 4 seed. Facing, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? You've never heard of that show? It was a kid show.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
So we've got somebody who's never heard Welcome Back Cotter, and you've never heard Peter Gunn is in.
Yeah, Growing Pains did not make it. Oh, Fraggle Rock. That's a good one.
Oh, my God. That's like one of my favorites.
How did you forget about Fraggle Rock?
I didn't even think. Yeah. Fraggle Rock got screwed. They're in the NIT. No, this is what it is.
You should have had regions and done like 80s.
Guys, come on. Give me
cartoons.
A break. Different World did not make it. Different Strokes did.
Yeah.
I Dream of Jeannie was in the same league as Fraggle Rock. It was a 1-bid league.
Because you should have like kids shows, 80s.
No, come on, guys, give me a break. That made it. Give me a break. Did make it. Moesha did not make it. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? No. Real People did not make it. You remember that show, Steve, with Sarah Purcell?
Yeah, who the horn? That's a good point. That's a good point about how much do you need? And yeah, if it's like $20, sure. If it's I need like 200, like why?
Muppet Show made it. Bewitched did not. Unsolved Mysteries out. Flintstones in. $6 Million Man out. NIT. Get Smart. NIT. Expand. Yeah, we need to expand the tournament. Married with Children didn't make it. 1-bid league, lost. Lost to the Love Boat.
Are you going to ask Damon for his favorite
TV theme song? Sure. Why not? I haven't seen Damon in years. He was in school back when I first started. Like, he was in Alaska when Passion and I were there. I remember him singing karaoke in Alaska. I think I could be daydreaming. Barney Miller not in. Saturday Night Live not in. Adam 12 not in. Twilight Zone in. Inspector Gadget no. Johnny Quest no. DuckTales no. Dick Van Dyke in. Scrubs out. Mission Impossible out. CIS Miami out. Beverly Hillbillies out. Callister explained it all. No. Parker Lewis can't lose out. No one even said that one. I just said it.
What about Dawson's Creek?
No. Square Pegs out. Bugs Bunny out. Parks and Rec. I considered Parks and Rec. Curbs Net was in the 70s. Smurfs out. The Office out. Laverne and Shirley in.
Not on yet.
What?
Not on yet.
Oh, no. Artist of the day today is Alice in Chains. This is my favorite Alice in Chains song, Steve.
Let It Cook?
Got me wrong. I feel like that's my whole life. Nobody gets me, Steve. I just want the world to get me and love me, and it just doesn't happen. No one gets me or loves me.
Beverly Hills 90210?
Not in our tournament bracket. No, it was hard. You know how many TV shows there are? I had to narrow it down to 64. If you want a better one, do it yourself. I ain't got time for this.
All right, we got
people coming at me about TV show songs now.
We got the local perspective on this Bryan Hodgson story earlier with Mike McAllister, and now we're going to get the national perspective. You can hear our next guest on Sirius XM's Mad Dog Sports Radio, Damon Amendolara, joining us here on the show. Damon, before we get any further, Paulie has put together, anytime Syracuse misses the tournament, we put together a bracket. The topic this year is TV theme songs. Do you have a favorite TV show that we can ask Paulie if your show is in the bracket or not?
Yeah, number one, it's such a shame because Paulie's so easy to love that people don't love right now. So that's a tough one. But how about Different Strokes, a theme song?
Different Strokes is my favorite TV theme song of all time. And it is in, and it's so hard to read because I'm old. They're an 8 seed against Good Times in the 8-9 game.
That's a terrible seeding by the committee here. How can both Different Strokes and Good Times be an 8-9? That's incredible. Both those should be top 5 seeds.
It was story writing.
Storylines, going for the storyline.
All done for the ratings. I understand.
Oh man! All right, Damon. Let's jump in with this Bryan Hodgson story, and I guess first let's start with your take on this. When you heard the news last night that he was no longer in the running for this job, what was your reaction?
Extremely surprised. I thought all along that Syracuse was going to land Bryan, and I really thought, and maybe this is a little delusional, that he was using Providence to the very end to up the NIL financial commitment by Syracuse. But I just thought, and I still think, that Syracuse is a great job, and I think it can be a great job, and that I think there is a sleeping, potential there, sleeping beast potential, and that a guy coming back to upstate New York with the dome and with the name and with the practice facility and with all of that knew how the landscape was going to look in modern college basketball, even at SU, and was ultimately going to pick it. And it was just kind of the crossing of T's, dotting of I's. The fact that he backed out was pretty stunning to me because it means either Providence has deeper pockets or USF is a better job, or neither one is the best job he thinks he can get, and he'll go back into the cycle next year. None of that is good news for Syracuse. And so, yeah, I'll admit it. I was stunned last night.
Do you feel as though he was the best candidate for the job? Do you feel like there is a drop-off now with Bryan Hodgson and whoever they pick, or do you think they're going to find a fine replacement for Adrian Autry, and you pair him with the right resources and off you go?
Well, I think, honestly, when it comes to Jerry McNamara, under most circumstances, most years, GMAC would be a pretty darn good option. I mean, this is a guy that we all know, knows the program, knows the landscape, has been an assistant coach. And if anybody could activate the resources at SU, the fans at SU, it would be GMAC. So some of the Bryan Hodgson stuff felt to me to be of the moment, that he was the apple of people's eyes because right now he seemed dramatic, and the Adrian Autry thing was so problematic that there was a lack of appetite for a former Syracuse assistant, that maybe in the moment Hodgson seemed great, but really under most circumstances, GMAC would be the obvious answer here. So I think once we pick up the pieces and I think kind of get our stabilization back a little bit. Maybe GMAC just ends up being, the easy answer here. And the way the Autry situation unfolded, went down, ended, I think, has a lot of people very worried about what a former assistant coach might look like at SU and whether we're all kind of blinded by loyalty to the program. But I do think beyond Hodgson and GMAC, there feels like there's not a natural fit and that you're throwing a dart. And Hodgson is a dart and GMAC's a dart in some ways, but at least both those guys had reasonable things to get really excited about. Hodgson has his ties to upstate New York, has turned around 2 smaller programs, feels very of the moment in modern college basketball, manipulating rosters, transfer portal for a good reason, doing it well. And those are things that Syracuse obviously needs, and GMAC for obvious reasons. So after those candidates, nothing feels exciting. But then again, I mean, let's face it, these types of openings happen a lot. And most often you have to take a huge leap of faith. And it just so happened that this year, because of the roots of Hodgson and the history of GMAC, neither one felt like such a dramatic risk that it normally would.
Where do you stand on the Beheim fatigue in all of this? Do you understand that from the fan base?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Look, I think that especially when you're going through it, Jim Beheim is never going to be warm and cuddly. And for those 40 some odd years, by the very end, anybody would get, I think, tired of something that lasted 4+ decades. And Jim has always had a very opinionated, at sometimes abrasive type of personality. So it's not a warm and fuzzy type of experience. At the same time, I don't know if it's fair to Jerry McNamara to hold what some people might resent against Jim Beheim against GMAC. He's his own guy, and he's proving it at Siena. And the Adrian Autry thing, again, I don't think should be held against Jerry McNamara either. Autry just might not be as good of a head coach, or the situation at Syracuse might just be better for the next head coach because the last 3 years taught the administration something. And I really like the new AD. I really like him. I think Bryan Blair is going to be very, very good in this role. So, but yes, of course I understand. I think anybody that doesn't understand that type of sentiment probably hasn't lived or breathed the Syracuse program and understood kind of like what the inside of the guts feels like. And the thing with Beheim will always be complicated, I think, for everybody.
We had Mike Tirico on the show earlier in the week, and he, of course, was on the search committee to find the new athletic director and to find the new chancellor, for that matter. And we asked him if he thought Syracuse could get back to a day where it's nationally relevant in basketball and football at the same time. Back when, I was a kid here, you were a student here, Paulie was working here. Back to those days of being nationally relevant in both sports. He said without a doubt yes, but that it would take X, Y, and Z to get there. Damon, do you see a day when the dome is full again for both sports and both are in the top 20 and both are competing for conference championships and do you think that Syracuse can get to a point where the resources, the NIL packages, all of that is where it needs to be for that to happen?
So this is the single most interesting question about it all, because I went through SU late 90s. I graduated in 2001. Mike was there in the late 80s. And by the time I got there, we heard about the glory years of 1987. By the time I got there, the Syracuse, my senior year, Syracuse football missed the bowl game at 6-6. They were not taking 500 teams back then. My first 2 years on campus was Donovan McNabb. My last 2 years on campus was Troy Nunes. So I already was kind of 1 foot in the glory years, 1 foot out of the glory years. Now that's 25 years ago, and the landscape has changed dramatically. For Syracuse, it's a problematic position in the ACC because Duke and North Carolina, I just don't think anybody in America can really catch if you're in that conference. That's just not a reasonable bar to cross. Whereas in the Big East, Syracuse was UNC and Duke. So that you have to realize is a number one threshold that's probably unreasonable. The dominance the Syracuse had between like 1984 and like 1992 in basketball or beyond is just not reasonable in a conference that has Duke and North Carolina. Okay. Number two in football. again, are you talking about a conference that you can reasonably compete at the very top for year after year after year? I've said this to my brethren, my colleagues, the guys that I graduated with. I think most of us feel like, hey, if you could tell us we're in the ACC championship game once every 4 or 5 years, we would take that. We're not trying to be Clemson. We're not trying to be Florida State, even though Florida State has not been there. We're not trying to be Miami. It's just you've got to be in the top 4 or 5 every single year. Is that good enough for everybody? If that's what constitutes the glory days, then yeah, I think that's in play. If we're talking about being the dominant force in a conference ever again, it's probably not. And this is the harsh reality, which I wrote about on my Substack today and did a video about on YouTube. And my YouTube channel the last couple of weeks, I've done a lot of Syracuse kind of digging into what all this change means. It's a transformational moment for college sports and this university. I was just up there for the UNC game in February, spoke to some students, and, I had a great weekend, but it is so obvious. We all stand in this weird spot in college sports where it's really not about culture, history, legacy, what happened before you, which is what Syracuse has relied on and everybody else relied on for decades. It's really just about your payroll. And it's such a hard thing to reconcile because in 2026, we're not that far away from all the old stuff mattering. And that's where I think Adrian Autry was caught. Some of it his own doing, some of it maybe not his fault. And that is the landscape changed within like the last 4 years. I mean, that dramatically. And so if you're asking me, and I think, look, Mike is the best of the best. He absolutely is the right guy to help man this ship. And I've got nothing but admiration for him, obviously. And I consider him a friend as well. If Mike believes that the money is there to have one of the highest payrolls in the ACC, he would know far better than I do. I just wonder if that's realistic. I don't know. And unfortunately, that's today's college sports landscape. And until that changes, I don't know what a reasonable expectation is for annual performance for Syracuse. Is it to be a top 4 team of the ACC? And I don't want to hear that going to the ACC was a mistake because we all didn't like it, but it's the unfortunate reality. If you're not in the ACC, then Syracuse doesn't have a home for football. And if you don't have a home for football, what exactly where do you think the NIL money comes from if it's not going to come from the same donors that you're asking for right now? Like, you have to be in the ACC. So, long-winded answer, because I think this is a really complicated question. I think Syracuse could be far better in its standing than it is right now. And I really like the new AD, and I think the new chancellor has the right priorities, and hopefully the new coach is in the right realm there. But it really, some of this is kind of beyond the pale because maybe college sports needs guardrails so that this isn't the only thing that everybody needs, which is basically how much is your payroll this year.
You mentioned the payroll, and like, is this sustainable even for a Duke or a North Carolina and Kentucky? Is this sustainable for $22 million payroll as you keep going back to the same people with no return on investment?
I don't think so. Granted, I didn't grow up in SEC football country, so I don't know. I mean, some of this has always been the reality of SEC football. It's like you go to the same oil guys, you go to the same banking guys, you go to the same, business owners, the car wash guys, and you say, well, we need an extra $100,000 here, and an extra $200,000 here, and an extra $1 million here, and this has always been the arms race that they've dealt with. Now it's hit everybody, and certainly at Syracuse, I just think that that's kind of untenable. I think at most schools that's untenable, and I think there's an appetite for it maybe right now, but there won't be for, in the next 5, 7, 10 years, just as you kind of allude to. Like, why would people just keep forking over, $700,000 every offseason to pay for players? I just don't understand, but that's kind of what you're looking for, unless you can maximize other revenue models, and hopefully that's what Brian Blair can do. But no, I just don't think for most schools you can keep asking the same 20 donors for lots of money, because again, it's not like alumni like myself who, if you come to me and you say like, okay, we need, $5,000. I'm like, oh, okay, I got a family. But maybe I can figure that out. Like, you don't need $5,000. You need $500,000. How many people can dip in their pockets year after year and give that? I don't know. I don't live in that universe. So that's when I do think it's untenable.
I wanted to ask you, you brought yourself up, so I'll use you as the example too, is how difficult is it for guys like in your position when you go to a prestigious school like Newhouse or any of the, like if you went to Falk or anything like that, the university needs money for Newhouse also, and they need money for their basketball and football teams too. How do you make that decision?
Well, I've given to WAER, my student station, because WAER has long been, a kind of a nonprofit operation and an NPR station, and it really was our home. I mean, for all my colleagues and my friends and the people that I really consider my true brothers from Syracuse, it was like that was our petri dish. That was our lab. Those were our moments. So that's where I've given. But yeah, it's a difficult thing because it's giving. It's, once a year there's Giving Day, and that's for either a drive for WAER or there's a drive for Syracuse and tuition for students or room and board, and wherever that goes. I understand you have to do that. I mean, they've never asked me for money for sports, and I would have to say, like, that's not where my money's going to go. I can't do that, not with the restrictions I have just in my own family. Like, I can't look at my wife and go, yeah, hey, by the way, I just dipped into our savings because I wanted to make sure we have a better cornerback. Like, there's just no way I can possibly rationalize that. So I don't, God bless that you're able to find that around college sports, but yeah, I don't know how that's tenable.
So true. It is so true. Damon, you've been very gracious with your time. I guess as we wrap this thing up, how do you think it's all going to play out here at Syracuse with the head coaching search? We assume we're going to know who the next head coach is within the next few days to a week, I would think, as long as that person's been eliminated from the NCAA tournament. Do you think it's going to be Jerry, or do you think it's going to be somebody else?
Well, I do think it's going to be Jerry, but I thought it was going to be Hodgson too. So, I mean, I guess I was wrong the first time around. But yeah, I think it's going to be Jerry. I would find it really hard to believe that Jerry McNamara wouldn't view this as his opportunity. I mean, at the moment, sky is falling a little bit for Syracuse basketball. To be fair, we don't know if Bryan Hodgson is a guarantee. Everything felt good. It felt like a good fit, but there was no guarantee there. And so, like I said at the beginning, if it's Jerry McNamara, under most circumstances, that would be a phenomenal hire and people would be fired up. It just so happens that he seemed to be the second choice of a lot of people. And the Adrian Autry thing got ugly by the end. And let me just say this about Adrian Autry. I admire him and respect him for his time. I mean, when I was on campus, it was like, oh, he was the connection to the glory days, Adrian Autry. And I think he was put in a bit of a difficult spot because pretty obviously the NIL wasn't up to snuff his first two seasons. And then it started to get really rancid this last part of the year, this last season. And for the most part, I think he kept a stiff upper lip. Now, maybe, people feel like he pointed fingers a lot, but at the end of the day, now that we have, his son is kind of making jokes about this on Twitter, like it wasn't my dad's fault. And, you have some of that other stuff going on. Like that's where it kind of gets unnecessarily ugly. I think brighter days are ahead. And I don't think this is a terrible job in any way. I just think it takes the right person and the right people at the top to kind of align everything. So I keep going back to the AD. I've got a lot of optimism. I think it ends up being Jerry McNamara. And we just have to hope that GMAC has enough seasoning with 2 years at Siena to where he can really coach, because it's not just about NIL. It is still about coaching. And then it's about Jerry being able to activate a lot of NIL and ask for those donations and get people excited and get people in the building. And I do hope some of the stuff that I've seen on social media does dissipate, where it's like, well, I'm never going to go to the Dome now because they're, the university's not committed to sports. I don't believe that. I think in some ways, and I said this today on my YouTube channel, Syracuse's brand, and this is kind of a good thing and a bad thing, is bigger than its reality sometimes. The Dome seats 30 grand if you can get in there for basketball. Jim Beheim was here for 45 years. There was the Big East glory days, and there's a lot of Syracuse media, such as myself, that like to bang the drum. And so it feels bigger. But at the end of the day, when I was there were 10,000 undergrad, and now there's like 14,000, 15,000 undergrad. That's not a huge state school. That does not give you unlimited resources like these really big programs. So I think there's really better days ahead. I'm very optimistic, and I'm going to give Jerry Mack as much optimism as I can, because I think he's a great guy and a great candidate. But I do think that maybe there's sometimes outsized expectations that you got to operate like you are Ohio State, when in reality, that's kind of not reality because you just don't have that type of alumni base and that type of enrollment.
Yeah, well said. Great stuff, Damon. Remind everybody how they can consume your content. Sounds like we can find you in many different places.
Yep, I'm on the radio every morning on Mad Dog Sports Radio on Sirius XM. That's channel 82. And then I'm on YouTube. Just search my name, Damon Amendolara, on YouTube. Subscribe there. We got a lot of YouTube videos about Syracuse during this transformation period and plenty more to come. And then also on Substack, if you want to read my columns about all of this as well. Those are all free columns on Substack.
Great stuff.
Reading.
And, reading.
Still do that.
Okay, maybe not for Paulie, but for the rest of you that actually have
For everybody
an
else.
8th grade education, you can read me there.
For everybody else. And we look forward to that new defensive back that you're going to deliver in the next year or two.
I'll let you know who I buy, and then we come on together.
All right, Damon, continued success. Be well. Thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Back at you guys. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take our final time out here. We'll wrap things up next on ESPN Radio.
Showbro Michael, that's been my biggest worry too, is that I don't want the fan base to turn on Jerry. I have a man crush on him. I don't hate him like Steve. I have a crush on him. Thank you, Al. I was just letting him say what he wanted to. I wanted him to let it out. Get it all out.
So we're actually a segment behind here. So why don't we just do today's business? Whatever you think, but we are okay. Yeah.
I just gotta say that today's business thing.
So take your property to the next level this season with CNY Lawn and Snow LLC. Leave your old contractor and landscape issues in the past and step into 2026 with a fresh start and a professional landscape contractor that actually gets the job done. CNY Lawn and Snow LLC. Quality matters.
Back pain, neck pain. I got all of them. I've got the back. Steve's got the neck.
I do have the neck. So I don't know what you want to do with commercials, but we're going to end the show here. So we'll do today's business.
Who the hell made you the producer?
Oh, no, Tim said it. He's our producer.
I'm not even going to vote. It's too far away.
Okay.
We'll
You can remind everybody about the bracket, how they go about it. Yeah. What time's your
Super
appointment?
gassy today, Steve. I just had to leave the studio.
What time's your appointment?
3.
Oh, man.
When has Beheim ever said except losing? Mello had one exceptional year here. I really don't appreciate having such a say. He also built the practice facility. What the hell? Come on, man. Come on. I try to read YouTube every once in a while. I don't know. Yours are over here, I think. Ah, son of a gun. We'll end with don't follow. Today's business.
There goes the perfect game.
Yeah, I don't care.
No, he already lost.
Damon was great.
Yeah, a little bit earlier. Okay. He was great. Thank you, Tim, for
good get
setting that up.
Yeah, I already told him I'm stealing him for my show next time around.
Yeah. Selfish. It's very good.
I enjoyed DA. Good guy.
You've got today's business. Who's it brought to you by?
It's brought to you by Superior Plus Propane. And we don't really have anything that we can get to at this point, but listen to my show later.
Someone asked what his go-to in karaoke was, and I think he was singing Love Train by the OJs. That's my Damon take. All right.
That was in Alaska, right?
Yeah. Great Alaska Shootout. Worst press meal ever.
Really?
Hot Pockets in a fridge next to a microwave.
Hot Pockets.
Would you eat a Hot Pocket? That's a great.
I've had Hot Pockets before.
Did you enjoy it?
If you give it the proper time to cool down and you don't burn your face off by biting into it when it comes right out of the microwave, yeah.
Well, all right. Well, your TV Shong, Tim.
Curb Your Enthusiasm wasn't on there, and I was disappointed.
Didn't make it. Did not.
First
did
team
you
out,
consider
right?
it or
first team out?
In Living Color made it over that.
Yeah, I feel like this should have been collaborative. I think
it's never been collaborative.
No, I know.
You never want anything to do with this, and now all of a sudden people like it, and you're oh, look at how great our idea is.
Can I create my own bracket in 2 months, and we can do that one?
Yeah, you can do. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can have a bracket. You can have a bracket. Pat from Syracuse can have a bracket.
Does Gaper get a bracket?
Gaper can have a bracket. Circus of Values. Bracket. Anybody. It's like Oprah. You get a bracket. You get a bracket. We'll just do regular bumps on Monday when we get back. If any news breaks in the next 2 days, we will break in with the breaking news.
Why are we just conceding to regular bumps? Why can't we vote?
Paulie's over it. He's over the show today.
I think I'm over everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
My bracket's not good enough.
Well, I didn't say, I guess I did say it wasn't good enough.
Guys, I had to pick 64.
I know.
Now I know how that guy feels when he gets beaten up in the CBS interview on Selection Sunday. I did the best I could.
Okay.
All right. The teams I thought should get in got in.
Okay. Fair enough.
If you got a beef with the committee, you can take to Twitter.
Next time you see John Wildtack, your best friend, of course, I
can commiserate with him.
Right. Selection committee member.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard.
I'll be like, I get it, man. I get it. I'm sitting here. You had Auburn. I had Wonder Years. Peter Gunn versus Wonder Years. Tough.
What do you got coming up on the show tonight, Tim?
Same deal. I mean, I'm just going to react to the news like you guys have, and then take callers. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that want to discuss the Bryan Hodgson news and who they should hire now and what's next for Syracuse.
Okay. As Paulie said, if there's any breaking news over the course of the next couple of days, we'll break in with a show. But otherwise, you're going to hear Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA basketball tournament Thursday and Friday. And we'll be back on Monday. So with that, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. For Paulie, for Tim, I'm Steve. We'll talk to you again on Monday, if not sooner.